Actually, I don't know what the intro looks like when we speak in English, because in German, I always try to have the same intro all over again, but I think I have to come up with a new one. So let's just have a quick start, a hot start here.
Let's go for it then. Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus, so cool that you take time to do this interview. Actually, I was very nervous before because as I told you, I didn't really do that much of interviews in English. I'm used to interview people in German like all the time. It's what I do on a daily basis. That's what I do for years. But when it comes to English, it's not my mother language. So please be patient with me when I lack some words.
I will absolutely. I mean, so far you are crushing it. So thanks for making it an opportunity. It's like, hey, there's a huge portion of the world that is, not available to me to talk functional bodybuilding because I don't speak their language. But people like yourself who can help translate that for audiences and listeners, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's my mission. Actually, I try to talk to as much people as I can and try to filter their information and then share it with my own community. That's what I always do as a podcaster, and that's why I love my job so much.
Awesome.
Give us the quick introduction, Marcus. I mean, I know you because I would consider myself as a CrossFit OG because I do it for like more than 10 years. And I'm owning my own CrossFit box for 7 years. And I feel like the people who are now joining the CrossFit box, they are looking for a new workout routine, but they don't really, they're not that attached to the sport as it was like 5 or 10 years ago. So I think it's very important that they know who I'm talking to today.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I have a long history of working in the health and fitness world, but also just participating in the health and fitness world. So goes back 20 something years where I've been dedicated to this industry as someone who's just exploring health and wellness. And I knew I wanted to make it a career out of university, but I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. The CrossFit movement hadn't really taken place yet. It was just sort of starting. But I got into more of a traditional medical career path and went for education at medical school here in the United States, and quickly found that I wasn't super passionate or inspired to continue with that career path, but I still wanted to stay in fitness or in health and wellness. And I kind of made a transition to more of a coaching career. And the place that I went and chose to do that was in the CrossFit box. And the CrossFit box was this kind of new emerging place where health and fitness was a very prominent conversation, discussion, not just amongst the athletes and the committed people like myself, but amongst like everyday people who were just coming in to lift weights and talk paleo and nutrition for the first time ever. And I thought that, well, what a beautiful place to go and get real world experience, because there was lots of people that were interested. So I started coaching people there in a CrossFit box. That was how I started my health and fitness career. And simultaneously, CrossFit began this very steep, growth curve of building a sport called CrossFit, or the CrossFit Games. And that sport was sort of like always marketed as this is like the elite version of what's happening in the CrossFit box. And so I participated because I loved it. And I had a lot of athletic background too, but I had kind of these two parallel careers. It was a CrossFit athlete career and a CrossFit coach, or really a health and fitness coach career. And those, I reached just about as high as you can in the sport and in the coaching world of CrossFit over the course of about 8 years being in and around that community before selling my CrossFit gym, and then starting a new company, which is Functional Bodybuilding, which still serves a ton of CrossFitters around the globe, as well as people that have kind of gravitated to us from different disciplines. So that's, sorry if that was a little long winded, but that's as short as I could make it.
Yeah, it's a very, very good starting point for this episode, because you just mentioned it. You started a company called Functional Bodybuilding, and when you like use the terms functional and bodybuilding, it's probably like the two words that are mostly sought after when we enter it into Google, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are very familiar with both terms. Maybe they're there's a intuitive sense or of like, oh, I guess I can kind of understand how those could fit together. At least the words themselves make sense. But then it raises questions for people like, well, what is functional? What is bodybuilding? How do they fit together? What do you do? I want to be functional, but I also want to have a nice body. So I'm actually into that. But it is searchable. That's for sure.
So what differentiates functional bodybuilding from other traditional fitness programs?
This continues to evolve over time, but I think what functional bodybuilding to me always represented was I was a very I didn't, for all the years that I spent drinking the CrossFit Kool-Aid and truly being aligned to that brand and that sport, what ultimately drew me into CrossFit and why I think I fell in love with it so deeply was that it was sort of marketed early on as we do everything. We're a jack of all trades. Everything in fitness really is valuable. You don't have to just do cardio. You don't have to just lift weights. You don't just have to be a bodybuilder or just do an Olympic lifting. That all of these disciplines can sort of meld together. And we have this thing called CrossFit, which helps you measure whether any of those things are actually effective at making you more fit. So that was that last little line that I just stated was sort of the marketing pitch ploy and a very biased view of fitness by Greg Glassman, which is like, if it doesn't move these power metrics, then is it really actually valuable to you? And that was a very simplistic view of fitness, but it was elegant, meaning that it just allowed people to sort of have one North Star, which is I have to improve my CrossFit performance. And so over the years, people got focused on improving CrossFit performance by doing lots of CrossFit style workouts and started to neglect the fact that, like, hey, doing some bodybuilding, doing some cardio, practicing the disciplines of gymnastics all on their own, kind of building this sort of well-roundedness and jack of all trades, like that was what inspired me so much in the first place. Never wanted to say, this is right, you all are wrong. And in the early years of CrossFit, because people became so dedicated to a very like a defined, like a very narrow definition, it was like if you were in the bubble, you were part of the cult drinking the Kool-Aid. If you were outside the bubble, you hated people in the bubble. And then if you're in the bubble, you hated people outside. It was just this very divisive fitness endeavor. And to me, I kind of, when I wrapped up my competitive career, because to be competitive in the sport of CrossFit, we did lots of different disciplines. We trained lots of different things, in periodized systems. We used a lot of principles that were not technically CrossFit as they were taught in the level 1 certification or certificate course. So we were leveraging a lot of different things, and we were doing it at a very high level. And once I finished my competitive career, I was like, look, I'm going to continue to do this sort of all these different disciplines. I'm going to weave them together, but I'm going to train them separately. But I ultimately want to do this for a long time. And the approach to just intensity and performance within the discipline of CrossFit, as defined by sort of these power metrics around classic workouts, classic Metcons. I just knew that wasn't the only way. I knew that doing some bodybuilding, mixing in some different training practices that got people to slow down rather than go faster, Hey, here's a day where you don't have to go full tilt, all the power in the world. You don't have to be intense every single day of your life. You can have a lower intensity day that actually really builds you up and creates a great stress response that feels good in your body. I just wanted to have I knew I was going to do that, and then what that started to look like, I gave a name to later on when people started to say, "Hey, that looks cool. Looks like you're doing CrossFit, but you're mixing in some bodybuilding. You're mixing in some other training practices." That kind of resonates with me. That feels kind of aligned to what I want right now.
Yeah, one of the reasons I'm really happy about this interview is because for a long time I used your kind of training style on my own, and I adapted it a little bit to my own needs because I was always like short on time, and your workouts sometimes they require a lot of equipment and you need to move it around. And I was saying, oh, I don't have that time. I just want to do some bodybuilding and I want to do some cardio training. So I found a training for myself, which I then called cardio bodybuilding, which was
Yeah.
just a mix of like do 20 reps of bench press and then do some bike. And the other day I did the workout which you posted on Instagram with the leg races and the dumbbell bench press and the bike in between. That's what I did, and that's my kind of workouts which I really enjoy and which I do
Sure.
all the time because I feel like probably not on the same level as you did, but I feel like I'm a little bit burned out when I always go very hard on the
Yeah.
CrossFit style workouts. And now Murph was around the corner, and like all the people who train at my box, they came in the other day and they were super sore and everything
Hmm.
hurts. And I know for myself, I don't want to have that every day. I want to have that
Yeah.
maybe once a couple of weeks, but I want to feel good. I want to look good, move well. So I really like kind of understand those intentions you had.
Yeah. I mean, you just talked, the way you just spoke was exactly how I feel. And, you know, uh, the cardio and bodybuilding marriage, as I called it, aerobic bodybuilding, you call it cardio bodybuilding. I call it functional pump conditioning. We got different names for the same thing, but it is, I'm going to go and contract my muscles in a controlled yet intense way. Like I want to push myself, I want to challenge myself, but I'm going to do that under some aerobic distress. I'm going to build my cardiovascular system too. This is the true beauty of what CrossFit taught me, is that these disciplines and mixing energy systems doesn't have to be separate. And it's not just for the sake of getting better at CrossFit. Somebody who's short on time, who wants to come in and move their body and sweat, but also continue to get strong and to move in some functional patterns, I think is very valuable. And um, I'm deeply committed to continue to show people that that is, you know, what we offer and what we do best and what we've been writing programs and coaching people to do for years. And I also want to come back to that other point, which is like in the early days of developing functional bodybuilding, I was making a transition from a competitive CrossFit athlete who trained 4 hours a day. So then I created programs that lasted 90 minutes in the gym with equipment, and maybe sometimes they took a little bit longer. But to me, that was a dramatic reduction in the amount of time that I spent. Now, for the average everyday person, they're like, wow, Marcus, your workouts can take a long time and there's a lot of equipment. And so I had to learn and have to basically like evolve, right? Because now we offer programs that, with all the equipment and moving things around and getting set up and warming up and cooling down, take less than 60 minutes, because that is actually realistic for a lot of people. So functional bodybuilding basically started as this idea to like, how do I incorporate all these things? How do I do CrossFit at a less intense way every single day? And over the years, it's like now I just want to make sure that people can get access to the right type of training that makes them feel, like you said, really good and look good and move well, which is kind of our tagline, which is that idea that we're not going to sacrifice, good movement and feeling good just to look good, but we're not going to just go and be like great movers and not have the body that makes us feel confident and that we love.
So you had your coaching career, you had your professional athlete career, and now you sort of transitioned into this new role, the business owner role, where you, as Marcus Philly, you're like the personal brand, the guy who's the face of the functional bodybuilding company that you've built. I mean, you have more than 800. I checked 860,000 followers on Instagram and a huge newsletter following. So when I see that, it makes me really happy because I see that someone who started as a professional athlete has the ability to make that shift, to make that transition. Whereas you see a lot of athletes who are good in a sport for a year or two and then they just vanish and they're gone. And there's like maybe a couple of people, you, maybe Matt Fraser, maybe Ryan Fisher, to name a few, who really are so smart that they knew what they could do, maybe leverage them into a way where they can build a company around it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel extremely fortunate, and I think what helped me was that I started as a coach and developing my coaching career, and I was very committed and dedicated to being successful in that, before I ever became, you know, what I guess what some people would now call a professional CrossFitter. Although, it was that's a very loose term. It was not a professionalized sport, and we certainly didn't earn money at a professional level. But there was a lot of there's a lot of attention that we were able to gain from a very enthusiastic and dedicated and devoted community and audience. So with that, I got the opportunity to grow my personal brand, as well as having developed and put a lot of time to developing my coaching skills and knowledge. I was going to use those two the best that I could to reach more people and to keep enhancing my coaching career, which I never I never in my wildest dreams thought it would arrive where it is today. I thought it was simply going to be, you know, I was going to own a gym and be a great gym owner and coach people in that gym for years to come. Um, and here we are with really a new something that's much different and much broader reaching than I'd ever imagined.
Would you consider your company an online training company, or is it some kind of media company? Because when I look from the outside, I see every day I see new videos of you on Instagram or TikTok and new ways to reach people
Hmm.
with social media and with content. So, what role does the content play in your whole company?
Uh, we're not a. I mean, I can't call us a media company because, as I see it, a media company is a company that essentially drives revenue based upon the media that they create alone. Um, we're we're kind of close to that, but not really. We're not selling our media. We are not getting big ad revenues from media. They play a very small part. What we do is we sell training or coached. We sell training programs or coached training. Uh, Solutions. So if somebody wants to come and do functional bodybuilding, they can purchase our programs. They can enroll in our program subscription, or they can hire a functional bodybuilding coach to write and coach them through their program. So there's different avenues people can take with us. That is principally what we do. So therefore, I would say we're an online coaching business or an online training company. But nowadays, the way to market that or create awareness of what you do online is through media, a variety of different media, and social media um, is the principal, outlet that we use to get new eyeballs and reach new people because that's where everyone spends their time. I mean, other sources of media we would leverage if they were the most popular. You know, every time we try and get a new audience member, or we get a new audience member, the goal is to funnel them into other places where we can have more direct contact with them. So somebody who's just scrolling Instagram, they're paying their attention to Instagram and a variety of creators on this platform. But if somebody sees us on Instagram because we put some thoughtful content together, or some engaging or humorous or, entertaining content together, then our hope would be that they take the first step, maybe they share that, maybe they comment, maybe they click on a link in a bio, maybe they start to follow us and therefore see an opportunity to get into a deeper level of connection with us, which would be through our newsletter. And so then they're now looking at our newsletter because they want to hear more of what we have to offer in the way of deeper, longer form content that could impact their life in a positive way. And then they see that, and that inspires them to take the step where they actually transact with us, which would be to join one of our programs or purchase one of our programs. And that's ultimately where what drives this company is every bit of content that's made, every salary that's paid all comes from the training programs, not from the sale of the media, or some, big 7-figure, 6-figure, 5-figure, a brand deal or ad revenue that we get from YouTube or something like that.
Would you say that you're spending more time creating content than any other jobs you have within your company? Is it like the biggest part?
Probably the biggest part. Creating content, managing the company, and developing programs are the three biggest buckets of my time. Yeah.
I don't know if you ever talked about it, but I couldn't find any numbers. So how many people are working with you in your company?
We probably have 14 full-time employees. And then there are a handful of contractors and part-time people that help fill in other roles. But when I say full-time, I mean that they're not doing some other, job on the side. And now half of those people are coaches who are working with clients from around the world. They're servicing them in a one-on-one fashion. And then the other half are people who work predominantly in marketing and customer service for our members. Marketing, obviously, to go get new customers. That's how that's split. And then inside marketing, there's media. So we have a full-time media producer here, along with some contractors that we outsource some editing for.
So I'm in the media production game myself, so I know it takes a lot of time to produce quality media content, and I see videos of you training every day. So every day is a new video. And how long does it take from filming to editing to until the final piece of content is uploaded to all the platforms?
Well, we have, I think for a single piece of content, it would be difficult for me to really pull out like the exact time and numbers. But we've developed, our system of making content. And I think what we always look for is, we need to create enough content. So it's a volume game as well as a quality game. You want to make stuff that's good, that's engaging, that people learn from, they get value from in some way, whether that's learning, entertainment, any of those. But you don't want to, not at the expense of volume. So you can't be like, I got to perfect this content and then spend a whole entire week and get one thing out. because attention spans are so low, they may not even see your content. That's great. And if they do, it's a short blip. What they're going to see is, oh, I see this person repeatedly show up, show up, show up. And that is what gets your message across, or it gets them to pay attention. So in order for us to capture enough content, we have some dedicated filming sessions that are, we would maybe, create an idea board of 20 different posts, concepts for posts. And we would spend 90 minutes to 2 hours in the gym filming whatever hooks, B-roll, educational talking points, voiceovers that would be required to edit those into complete videos. We also film training sessions probably 3 times a week. So full training sessions where I'm training with either myself or with several other people, and we're capturing, full length training sessions. We also film 3 podcasts for our own channel every other week. And then I will do some dedicated filming, voiceover, reading scripts to produce possibly longer form YouTube content, which is really repurposed newsletters a lot of times. Or we say we want to develop a longer form YouTube educational concept that really is searchable and helps people to find answers to common questions. So the example would be like, can you eat too much protein in one sitting? We released that this past weekend. And so we, script out what this could look like, film B-roll at my house, and then put that together into a long form, video for YouTube, which is like 7 to 10 minutes long. And so those are just like the hours of like capturing the media. What happens behind the scenes, like who's editing, we got to then go and edit those down, turn out, a folder of 20 different shorts that can go onto all the different platforms. We review them, make tweaks, make edits, adjust them. There's looking for thumbnails. And that all is post-production time, too. And so I'm involved in the or the actual like capture of the media. I obviously do some pre-production work to kind of script things out and to spend time on ideas. I'm writing newsletters every single week, usually 2 newsletters a week. And a lot of those ideas become the seeds of content for the future, specifically, or especially when we send out a newsletter, we get, a 30 to 40 person email response that people are engaged with. That, hey, this was a really great piece of content. Cool. This is resonating with people. Let's go and film something about this. And then the last part of it, I think, is like the actual social media engagement time. So, putting things on story, taking pictures of meals, posting things there. That's real time engagement. And that is also, extremely time consuming too. You invest a lot of time on social media. How many hours am I on Instagram and YouTube each day? And then I have, we have people that are helping to answer questions and comments that maybe show up on YouTube or on TikTok. And then there's DMs that I have to answer. So it is very consuming, but I don't look at it as like, oh man, this is just so time consuming. I'm like, this is the business. This is a huge opportunity. And this is where I get to interact with people. Like I used to run a gym, and from the time I stepped foot in the gym to the time I went home, when I'm running classes, I'm interacting with people all day. And that was my job. Now my job is to interact with people, but I'm doing it through this new portal, which is the internet and the media through the internet. So I have to assume that I'm going to spend a considerable amount of time doing that.
You just mentioned TikTok. Is there any explanation for you why your following on TikTok is so much lower than on Instagram? Because when I checked, it was like 22,000 something on TikTok and like 800 100,000 plus on Instagram. Is it probably because the people on Instagram, they're used to see content like that, and TikTok is just another platform where you have to adapt your content in order to reach your audience better?
Well, I think a more simple answer is that I've been on Instagram for 10 years and we've been on TikTok for maybe a year or less, like developing and putting out regular, consistent content on TikTok. So we were late to the TikTok party, so to speak. And while we have done some, while we have tried to optimize some of our content for TikTok, we really have spent most of our time just sort of optimizing for Instagram and YouTube. So there's just subtle differences, I think, that come into the editing and the production process, to make something on TikTok really excel, or something on YouTube or something on Instagram excel. Ultimately, having a single unified concept and approach to developing content that works well on all platforms is the ideal. But I wouldn't say that it's obviously there's some things that we haven't cracked the code on and done well on TikTok, and perhaps our efforts have always been a little bit more focused on Instagram because we've been there and it's been a platform for us that's worked, or we've had more success on in the early years, so we've kind of stayed focused on what's gone well. But I think it's also just a time game on every platform. You have to put in energy, stay consistent for long periods of time, and that's how things grow.
Yeah, I love that. And also that you said that you have to put out the content on a frequent basis. So in order to keep your audience engaged, because when I scroll through Instagram, the chance that I see one of your posts is like very, very low, because a lot of people don't know that. But Instagram, whenever you post something, only like 10% of your audience gets the new video, the new picture. So you have to like get out content all the time in order to reach everyone. So that's very hard, especially for someone who starts with creating content. It doesn't matter if it's podcasting or video or photo. You have to be so consistent, and the only way to do it is like you do it. You schedule a specific date and time where you are very focused on creating the content. If you would not do it, if you just do it like, yeah, I do it now, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 3 days, I post a video here and there, it wouldn't work. So it's really very important for you and your business, in order to thrive, that you have this importance on the content creation side. And I think even if it's a smaller business, today you cannot reach everyone, or you cannot reach anyone without social media. So you really have to understand that, especially in the realm of fitness, where are so many different training programs which you can use, you have to do something that the others don't do, and that's mostly create quality content with enough quantity.
Precisely. Yeah.
Do you see a future for functional bodybuilding where Marcus Philly is not the key figure? What I want to say is, like, when I remember back in the days, CrossFit was always Greg Glassman. Everyone knew Greg Glassman founded CrossFit, but now when you ask the people who is Greg Glassman, probably, yeah, I think 50% of CrossFitters who start now, they don't even know who that guy is, right?
Yeah.
What I think is a good sign, because the sport has evolved and it got bigger, it got more mainstream, and the role of the founder isn't that important anymore. And especially when it comes to personal brands, sometimes it's very dangerous when the brand is too much attached to one person in order to thrive and excel. How do you feel about your company? Is it always Marcus Philly, or can there be a functional bodybuilding company without you as the key figure?
Oh, I know there can be a functional bodybuilding future without me as the key figure. It's part of it is a matter of, is that the route we want to go and I want to go? Is it, and then if there's a future for it without Marcus as the, main figurehead, um, will it and can it be as successful, or will it resonate with as many people? I think it's probably more of like that's like a 5 to 10 year strategy if we were going to go that route. And how do we include more people and position different faces in an educational role within the company? I think that's something that we want to do. We have, we've introduced different coaches and different faces along the way, in small bits, and people, recognize, hey, so and so works for the company, or so and so is part of functional bodybuilding, but certainly not to the extent that I'm in front of the camera. So I don't think that it's certainly not something that I'm, so long as I'm involved and wanting to work and still engaged in this, then I don't see a reason to try and move away from that or pivot away from me being, a center point for the company. But I think it's important to also reach new audiences and to reach a broader, group of people out there, that there need to be other trustworthy ambassadors or figures that we position as, experts in functional bodybuilding. And there are people that want to do that are great, on camera, that believe in the message of what we do. Take yourself as an example. And I know that this isn't necessarily where you thought this would go, but it's like, even just in how you describe, like, there's a lot of things that resonate about what you do with functional bodybuilding that I incorporate. You have an audience, you have a platform, you have a gym, you know how to create content, create media. It's like, somebody like yourself could be a functional bodybuilding coach, ambassador, and content creator, and could easily resonate with a different audience than I would resonate with, because, well, maybe it's language barriers, maybe it's cultural, maybe it's, maybe let's say you were 10 years younger than me, or 10 years older than me, or let's say you were a woman and you resonated with that audience. It's like, we just have to, it'll take time to surface these people. And, I think what might happen in the future is that right now, anybody can grab a microphone, anybody can grab a camera, and anybody can try and build their own brand and be be their own company. And it becomes a challenging thing to scale and to grow, and not everyone's going to succeed. And so right now it's a sort of like it's like the personal brand social media renaissance. Like, everyone's going to go, and I'm going to go build my own thing. I'm going to go build my own company. I'm going to go build my own. And I think everyone should do it and try it. And then at what point do you have a bunch of creators who learn how to create content, who learn how to speak to camera, to, resonate with the audience? Or maybe it's just they're great at making media, or pumping content out, but they just don't have infrastructure, and they just don't know how to run their own company, and they can't monetize that well. They can't grow. And it's like, that is, I think, kind of where you're like, okay, why don't you come and be on board with what we're about? Like, you love what functional bodybuilding represents. You already speak a lot of these these messages already. We just use slightly different language. You get to do what you love, which is, and what you're good at, is create content, speak to the audience. And now we're going to channel it all through this, outlet. And maybe that's, a few years down the line, where it's like, okay, now functional bodybuilding is getting a bunch of coaches now to work for us that have a new skill set, which is content creation, media. It's delivering programs. It's, so I don't know if that,
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but yeah, it's like, it's like, it's happened in other industries. Hey, we had all these people that were great, bloggers. They had their own blogs. They couldn't monetize it, so now they go and work for online, editorial companies, and they, those bigger companies have more ad, they get more ad revenue. They can drive bigger awareness. Like now we're employing people that were great bloggers to now come and write for this bigger company. I think the same thing will happen with, fitness training companies too, online training companies.
Awesome. I think we are almost run out of time, but I
Yes.
have some more quick questions, which probably take like 2 minutes. So I hope
Let's
you
do
can
it.
answer them in 2 minutes, because I collected some questions from the German community, and they
Great.
asked if I can forward them to you. So I said, okay, I try to implement it in the podcast.
All right. Well,
And
let's do it.
so I gathered 10 questions, and you can just answer them very briefly.
Sure.
What's your favorite meal?
Barbecue. American barbecue.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
American barbecue. Okay, American barbecue is my favorite cheat meal. My favorite meal of the day is breakfast. I just am a big breakfast. Start with and traditional American breakfast foods. Just I love them.
What is your favorite movement?
Some type of squat where I can really get lately it's been leg press, but yeah, just some squat.
What is your favorite CrossFit workout?
Fran.
I knew it. What is your favorite place to work out?
Functional Bodybuilding headquarters right here. My old backyard at my old house was pretty special too.
What is your favorite place to work?
I really enjoy my variety of stand-up desks. If I can walk on the treadmill and have my standing desk, I love it, but I can't do everything there. I can't do really focused programming.
What is your favorite sleeping time?
I go to bed at if it was perfect, it would be 8:30. I'd go to bed and I'd wake up at about 5 every day. So I'd get my 8.5 hours of sleep.
What is your favorite supplement?
Oh man. I mean, probably it's a toss up between creatine and whey protein. I've taken both of those consistently for so long. But a close runner up is I like a pre-workout, and I like some of the sleep, zinc magnesium combinations. Those sleep supplements are great.
How does your bedtime routine look like?
If it goes the way I like it to go, and the kids aren't keeping us up super late and putting up a fight to go to bed, then we put the kids down, read them a story, get to snuggle them before they fall asleep, and then me and my wife, ideally have 30-45 minutes to do a hot tub or a sauna or something like that, and then put all the blackout curtains up. Maybe put on the blue blocker glasses and watch 10 minutes of a funny show or 15 minutes of a funny show. And then, and it's right to bed in a cold, dark room.
What temperature?
We have, in Fahrenheit, I keep my bed at 65 degrees. So I have a cooling pad on my bed.
Okay, cool. So last question, what's your morning routine look like?
Morning routine up. Currently, my morning routine is get up, make a cup of decaf coffee. I don't like to get the caffeine going early. I just get coffee more for flavor, for ritual. Get into a hot tub or a sauna, usually the hot tub for 15 minutes, cold plunge. And then I am showered, ready to go. And I'm on my treadmill desk doing emails and taking meetings and getting the day started that way until the kids wake up. And then I'm either with the kids, taking them to school, or my wife is doing that.
Sounds perfect.
It is pretty nice.
Marcus, it was so good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Felix. Me
And,
too. And I hope this is really successful for you. And I hope that the audience appreciates, getting to hear from new speakers, because you're doing the hard thing of translating it into another language. And you did fantastic. I mean, there were no barriers to us having a good conversation based upon language. So thanks for doing that. And sorry if there were any hiccups getting started today. And if we cut into our time, I apologize. But if this goes well on your end, then maybe we can do a part 2 in the future. Okay.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you the same question. I think the community will like it, and yeah, let's do another episode for the podcast for sure.
Awesome.
Marcus, when someone wants to reach out to you and try functional bodybuilding, how can someone do it?
Just go ahead and start following at Marcus Philly on all the social media platforms. And as I mentioned, we got this newsletter where I think we connect more deeply with people. And if you want to get into the newsletter, go to functional-bodybuilding.com, and it's kind of the first thing you see listed there. So that would be a great place to connect.
Yeah, I put it in the show notes so everyone can see it and then follow you and your functional bodybuilding training. And yeah, it was so good to have you on the show, and have a nice day. I think you're having like 9 a.m. in the morning, right? So
yep.
Good to go.
Good to go. Got the day ahead of me. You have a good evening, okay?
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.